Hi, I'm Paula Sullivan, based in Blessington, County Wicklow in Ireland. I'd just like to make this short video about sacred sexuality and what I've learned about it over the past few years. It seems to have been around at the time of Atlantis and early Egyptian times. They had a matriarchal system in place at that time, and they celebrated the divine masculine and the divine feminine. They very much revered the right hand side of the brain and the left hand side of the brain and worked with the two together. They have a very balanced kind of approach to relationships. They had temples in place with high priests and high priestesses, and at around the time of puberty, males and females would go there to be initiated into the art of sacred sexuality. And males and females would be taught how to satisfy themselves sexually. So women would be taught to satisfy their own sexual needs independently, and so would males. And then they would be taught how to help to satisfy the other person's needs sexually as well. They were taught in all sorts of aspects of unconditional love as well. They had a very, very balanced society with very little power struggles that you would normally see today. That didn't kind of exist in those times, from what I've read anyway. Um, there was a story I also came across about Mary Magdalene as well, and she was apparently a high priestess as well. And then things changed, and a matriarchal system was pushed over, and a patriarchal system came in its place. And they forced the high priestesses who were into sexual initiations, they forced them into prostitution against their will. Apparently Mary, according to the story I read anyway, Mary Magdalene had left her particular temple at that time and had moved on, but the story was put in later on at the time of Nicaea. It was put into the Christian Bible texts anyway, that she was a whore and all that. And the stories then you see in later times, you see young girls who were pregnant out of marriage were put into laundries called the Mary Magdalene laundries, like, making out they were hers and that. So the stuff like that went on after the patriarchal system. They start discrediting the feminine. Anyone who was seen to be highly intuitive or highly emotional or anything like that was seen with suspicion. And then it went on into further history, into the witch hunts and stuff like that. And we progressed then in a patriarchal system. It's not left and right brained, masculine and feminine. It's just masculine. So they kind of trampled on the feminine for a long number of years, and it's still in place in a way. It still exists. We're bringing it back slowly, but it still exists. So everything was affected with that masculine principle in place. With the masculine energy being dominant, the feminine was subdued and discredited as well. And you see that the way, for most of us obviously watching this alive today, we would have been brought up in a masculine kind of concept, in a patriarchal kind of system, mostly left brain thinking. So you would have the males in our society would have been brought up to be not emotional at all, to be more rational. I know this, you can't generalize, not everybody's the same, but mostly, just generally, mostly, men would be encouraged not to be emotional and to be rational in that. And women as well, even though we are probably more intuitive in that, we would have been kind of encouraged. We'd be told that was our imagination and stuff like that, and that would have been discredited, even in our lifetimes as well. So we've seen relationships suffer. We've seen the power struggles between male and female happening. We've seen the move away from the right brain thinking. We've seen the move away from unconditional love as well to a concept of conditional love, where it's grasping, ego-based kind of love, attachment-based love. And what this has done, which is very interesting, I've been looking at all of this. What this has done is separated men and women. It's separated the male and female. And I'm not just talking about heterosexual relationships here. There's masculine and feminine in all relationships. So whatever relationship you're in, it separated the masculine and the feminine against each other, which is very, very interesting, I suppose. If you want to control people, divide and conquer. So you have all sorts of things going on now. Even nowadays, in this present time that I'm making this video, there's a lot of stuff going on where the men are turning more away from emotions, and they'd be more sexual beings. And you've got women who are more caring beings, and they're not very sexual. And then you've got relationships going on, things are falling apart there, because there's a cognitive dissonance there between the two. Women are trying to be mothers maybe, and they're finding it hard to be sexual at the same time. Or, do you know what I mean? We've been kind of put down that it's not a nice thing to be sexual and be a woman kind of thing, but it's okay to be a man and to be sexual. And we've all these different social concepts that have messed us all up. And now we're at a point where nobody knows where they stand. It's almost like there's a standoff between male and female now, you know. And I'm wondering, will things ever go back? We hear of stories of men kind of becoming more emotional, and we're hearing stories of women becoming more rational, you know. But I'm wondering, are they going to opposite extremes? Will we ever meet again in the middle, you know? So the concept of sacred sexuality today, I suppose you'd hear about tantra a lot more than sacred sexuality. And tantra is like that. It's a concept of, you know, it's not just having sex for the sake of just like your orgasm or something like that. It's more about reverence for the other person. It's more about coming from a sacred place of unconditional love. I mentioned this in another video about, it's the concept of giving to each other what you have to give, you know. And it's not so much about getting, it's more about giving, you know. And it's about taking your time with that person, and that the, you know, the focus is not necessarily on the orgasm as such, but it's on the connection with that other person in a sacred way, you know. So that's really all I have to say about that. I hope you found that interesting. If I can think of any more to say, I'll extend the video. I'll come back with a part 2 or something like that. Thanks again for watching. Again, I like all the likes and shares, the comments, the emails. Thanks very much again. And if you want me to make any more videos, do let me know. All right, thank you.